We've done their 9 to 5 rallies, but now we're 6 to 5.
Welcome to a special episode of Zero Credibility and Zero Credibility Sports Crossover. We're going to get Harry in as our special guest today, and I'm here joined with Justin. I'm Peter, the host. Let's go.
Hello.
All right, that's Justin coming in. All right, today we're going to start off with the Ballon d'Or incident, because we all agree that's not a scandal.
I think most people agree it's not a scandal, to be honest.
All right, Justin, could you explain what happened?
Basically, the first ever women's Ballon d'Or was awarded this year. It was awarded to
Equality!
a Norwegian athlete, Ada
Hergerberg.
Hergerberg. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name for any people who know how to pronounce, these sort of Scandinavian names. I don't. So when she went up to collect the award, who was the DJ?
Martin Solveig.
Martin Solveig. Basically asked her to, do you twerk? And she says no. You could tell she wasn't particularly amused. And
Everyone was baffled.
And I guess a bit of a kerfuffle
Yeah.
went out around, was that sort of sexual harassment, or was it appropriate, or something along those lines.
Okay.
I think compared to many other incidents that have happened in the world, this was not a big deal. Ada came out herself and said, I wasn't offended. If you actually looked at, I saw other clips of the award show as well.
Yeah.
Like when Mbappe went up to collect the award.
He was dancing to God's Plan.
Yeah.
Hit of the year, most streamed song of this year.
Yeah. Solveig was, as a DJ, he was trying to, trying to entertain the crowd a bit.
Give the queen her moment.
Yeah.
Slay.
So
Slay queen.
She herself came out and said, I understand, I didn't find it offensive, and in the end, I think it was like something that was an issue for and I use issue very loosely, for a day, and then it's sort of like no one really cares anymore.
Yeah.
Hold on. Did the DJ ask Mbappe to twerk?
No, he asked him to do a different dance.
Okay, so I think this is the whole point of this controversy or this kerfuffle.
Yeah.
Is because of twerk, right? That's what it's not big. If the DJ had asked her to do a dance, then
Do the waltz. Do the polka.
that's a little bit different. Although, again, I don't know if Mbappe just went to do a dance on himself by himself, or did the DJ ask?
No, the DJ was... I think the DJ's intention was never to...
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where context is important.
Context is
and if you
important,
watch the clip, it sort of was... It's not like she came up and was like, oh, do you twerk? No, it wasn't like...
No, it was
yeah,
just
it
like,
was
yo,
within the
it's your
context
moment
of
kind of thing.
yeah,
Come,
I think there's a bit of context. There's a bit of
Context
nuance
is easily
involved.
lost
But I don't
today,
need context to
in
know
today's world.
this. He used a word, or he asked a woman to do a act that's sexually provocative. He didn't ask a man to do that.
Okay.
Yes?
I think this is one of those gray areas where I think you could argue that maybe Martin Solveig was it culturally lost? Culturally stupid at that point?
Maybe.
I'm not sure what culture you...
Because if Beyonce went up or Rihanna,
If Nicki Minaj or Cardi B went up,
everyone would be like, everyone would be like, whoa, that's a queen right there.
Are they asking her to twerk? Would anyone ask her to twerk? They wouldn't.
I would not. I would definitely say that people would ask Cardi B to twerk 100%, and
They'll
she'd
do it
do
on
it.
command.
Okay, so context matters, right?
Yeah, context
so this
matters.
is the Ballon d'Or. This is a black tie event, right? Everyone's dressed up nicely.
Yeah,
it's at the highest of the high in terms of the sport.
I don't think Mbappe dancing in God Plan was a real black tie moment, if you know what I mean. So
Okay, is there a difference between Mbappe's dance and twerking? Like, Mbappe's not doing a sexually provocative act, is he?
I think this is where it's just tough to
I hate.
No. Okay, go on. Yeah.
sexually
So
provocative.
so I think, right, like I said, if you watch the clip, right, I understand what you're saying and where the setting is.
Yeah.
Right. But if you watch the clip, it's not like she comes up on stage,
Yeah.
accepts the award. Solveig is there and just goes,
Like,
"Do
yo."
you twerk?
Yeah.
Or do you want to twerk?" No, it's not within that context.
It's
Yeah,
not even a matter of what happened. It's just a matter of him choosing to say the word twerk or to the twerk,
Yeah.
which is if you had
I
say
think
a
there's a
daughter or
culture thing, there's a
sister,
culture
if
thing.
someone asked them to twerk, that you would take it quite differently than if someone asks you or a brother or son to do what Mbappe did.
Okay.
Would you agree or disagree?
For me, I'll just go like this. For my argument is that like, I think this is more of a battleground between females looking at other females, because some females think that twerking is the demeaning, and, but some females think it's like that's what queens do, you know, like slay. You
There's
know?
different perceptions.
The different
for
perceptions.
sure.
So this is more of a battle between them. Because if
But
she
there's a
was
difference. If a woman chooses to twerk, that's one thing.
Yeah.
If she chooses to do that, that's one thing. But a male should not ask a female to twerk, because then that's just sort of
then what's the
sexual
female equivalent?
objectification.
What's the female equivalent to the male? Dougie feeder. Like no, I'm not a male.
Well, first of all, I just don't think you should ask anyone to twerk, because I think twerking isn't just limited to females, right? Although
males can do it too.
No,
I
no,
can
no,
draw.
that's right. So when a male asks a female to do that, it's different than if a male asks a male, or if a female asks a male. Would you agree with this or not?
Yeah. I will
Okay,
go with
so
it.
there is that one thing. And two, I would say that for something like this, you just don't ask anyone, male or female, to twerk. It's not appropriate.
No, I agree, but I don't think it's as bad as. It's not like, oh, what a sexist dude. I think that's what we're trying to get.
Okay.
At, is Martin Solveig's intention was never to demean her.
Okay.
He was just trying to prompt her to, it's your moment.
Okay,
just
I agree
trying
with
to
that. I agree with that.
try to make a viral moment.
I don't think he
kinda
did it
thing.
on purpose, but I think this is the term that's been used. It's this casual sexism,
Yeah.
right?
Do you think it's casual sexism?
Absolutely, it's casual. He didn't do it on purpose. It's just without thought. It's a female. Let me just ask you to
Does
twerk.
he deserve the huge criticism, the huge
Absolutely.
blowback that he deserves?
It's not just him, even though he's the one who did it.
Yeah.
But it is a reflection of society where it's just loose, casual sexism that he doesn't have to think twice, and you're doing this because it's a woman.
Then why if Ada Hergerberg the next day went and did like a bikini nude shot like
That's completely different, because she's doing it on her own choosing.
I agree with that.
Okay, fair enough. Now just checking, just seeing the okay. I think I wouldn't have said that, obviously, but I'm not saying he's full of. I'm not trying to defend him, but I'm just trying to say it's what his intention was never to go like, yo, dance for us, you know. Like,
Well, I think that's an interesting question, right? Because
it was more of like, what if she
Okay,
did,
but it doesn't have to be binary. In other words, it doesn't have to be, are you a sexist or non-sexist?
Yeah,
or not a
agreed.
sexist.
Two
right?
things can be true, right? Like
Well,
two things can be untrue or whatever.
Sometimes it's just culturally, maybe it just...
Yeah, I think he was just culturally stupid in that moment. If it's in America, and if Nicki Minaj came on, just say she won the award of something, and she started twerking.
Oh, no, there's a difference. If she decides to do it herself, that's on her. That's on her. No judgment there. But
I mean, like usually,
no one should ask any female or male, really, but certainly any female to twerk.
In America, they wouldn't. Usually, a DJ would do something, and they wouldn't say, "Yo, get down, twerk." They would say, "Hey, fuck it up," and then they'll start. And girls usually do that dance.
That is a whatever you want to call it, a music thing. This is the
BET
Ballon d'Or.
But
she's not known for as a
the
dancer.
Ballon d'Or is not the same. What if I told you that the Ballon d'Or at this event was very different from the events prior?
But it's not. And she's not a dancer either. Like, in other words, she doesn't dance by trade. So Nicki
Everyone
Minaj...
dances. Kylian Mbappe doesn't dance by trade.
Yeah, but again, if Mbappe wants to dance, it's his prerogative to dance.
No, the DJ was dancing and egging Mbappe to dance.
Is he egging to thrust his pelvis?
No. It's not.
Oh, but why did he do that?
Line I read that line in some article. But no, I'm not trying to say she should. I think he shouldn't have used the word twerk. But I mean, he was just encouraging her to like enjoy the moment, like dance.
To thrust her pelvis, right?
No, I was just telling her maybe he shouldn't have used the word twerk. But I'm saying he could have just done the same.
But why use the word twerk? If you want her to dance, dance.
I'm saying he should have used the word dance, but like I'm trying to say that.
So it's not a slip of the tongue. Again, it's just casual sex. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you agree, Justin? Casual sexism?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what needs to change?
I don't think anything needs to change.
So we can throw it.
Well, I mean, we just condemn it.
Yeah, I think that.
I don't think he should. If you want to fire him, you can fire him, but I wouldn't necessarily advocate for that.
No,
Like
he's not getting invited back to the
No, but like I said, it was a bit of a kerfuffle, and I think in the end, it wasn't actually that big an issue.
Agree?
Like, it wasn't actually that big an issue.
It wasn't a big an issue.
It was forgotten in the day.
There was no one on the other side. I think that's why. I think we all know that. And I think it's just a reminder of the sort of the casual sexism in sports. Okay. So it's also, hey, what else is new? So I think that's why it wasn't a controversy because there was no one on the other side. I don't believe.
All right. Okay.
I mean, as in like defending him.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think you're right.
yeah.
all right. Let's move on to. Actually, speaking of Ada Hergerberg,
Yes.
I think
Wow,
the biggest
what a
story.
smooth segue. That was
What, I did a bit of a rewind, but anyways, yeah. I think the bigger news from this last week is that we found out that she doesn't play for a national team, and the reason, which I'll let Justin explain. He will explain why she doesn't play for a national team.
oh.
Skitterpat boom.
So I think not many people knew unless you're a big follower of, I guess, women's football. Not many people knew of her, and so one of the big news items that came out of her winning this award was the fact that she has refused to play for her national team Norway for many years. With the upcoming Women's World Cup as well, she's refusing to play as well, and the big reason that, or rather, the reason that she gives for not wanting to play in the Women's World Cup is because she feels that in Norway, at least, that there is a lack of respect for women's football. She uses the word respect quite often when
Right.
she's talking about this. She contends that women's football among girls is one of the biggest sports in Norway. Yet they are
Participation sport.
yeah,
or-
participation.
Okay.
And the women, and a lot of women, apparently a lot of women in Norway, like older women out of school as well, participate in football.
Okay.
Like whether on a social or casual basis.
Sure.
And yet, the women's team, and as particularly grassroots and development, are not given the same amount of
Funding
I think funding is one thing, but care and attention as well.
and marketing and all these.
compared to men's football. Obviously, this is one factor in a multitude of reasons that she has. I'm sure that her reason to not represent a country, is not a simple. It's because of this one reason. There's talk as well about how part of her discomfort comes from the fact that maybe the prize money in the Women's World Cup is not as high as the men's. And so, yeah, I think basically she sees a level of inequality and unfairness between the way men's football is treated in Norway and potentially worldwide compared
Yeah.
to women's.
Mm-hmm.
Have you talked about the World Cup prize money?
Briefly touched on it.
Have
Where,
you-
where were you, Peter? Weren't you listening?
How's the toilet?
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
Good
Don't think we
call
need-
out.
don't
Yeah.
think we need to.
Good call out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you gave them numbers and everything?
I mean, if you want, you can give us
This
numbers.
is amateur hour here.
It's all right.
I
Zero
agree.
credibility,
I
dude.
agree.
All right. So, I came back with the stats, essentially. So, essentially, the FIFA, this is one of the reasons. Apparently, it's because FIFA has raised the prize money for the Women's World Cup in 2019 from a total of 15 million to 30 million. But, yeah, well, that looks all like rosy and peachy. But on the men's side, they raised it from 400 million in the 2018 World Cup to 440 million in 2022. So there was people were, like basically it feels like women's sports are still not getting the respect that they deserve.
Okay, we need to define a few terms. What is respect? What does that mean? Is that respect in the form of money? Is that what people are saying, or is that what you're saying? Or
I think
what's
it's more
respect?
than that. Like what Justin say, like more, care and attention to kind of cultivate.
Being a bit more eloquent with the words, I think at the end of the day, a lot of her contention is around the treatment of women and yeah, like things possibly, and this part I'm just speculating. Things maybe around accommodation when they go to tournaments,
But that's
and
money.
things like that.
And also, okay.
Yeah, let me finish. Hold on.
Please.
Yeah.
She speaks quite passionately and quite strongly around the development and grassroots of women's football in Norway. So I think a lot. If you wanna really look at it, a lot of it comes down to money. Because, for example, if you want to talk about development of football
Yeah.
within a national context, a lot of that money will come from your National Football Association.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they're not, maybe she's the ultimate sort of, you know, if you want to keep winding it back, the ultimate reason might be the budget that goes towards the development of women's and men's football is quite different substantially.
Yep.
Maybe the budget for, you know, travel and accommodation for women's tournaments and all that. And that one in particular, I've heard from other particular women's football athletes. I think it was not too long ago. Was it a year or two ago? Where I think it was I think it was the
Matildas?
yeah, the Australian team.
Shout out Samantha Curl. She's a beast.
Yeah, who were basically in revolt against the FFA
What?
because of a perceived lack of
80 plus rating on FIFA.
yeah, of their perceived lack of budget allocation for the women's team.
Yeah.
So I've definitely heard that argument
Oh, of
before,
course,
not
yeah.
just from Ada, but from people from different national teams around the world.
Shall we talk about a recent scandal? FC Basel in Switzerland. They had a club gala day, and apparently the women's team was asked to work. And the meals that they got sandwiches, while the male players, they had a 3-course meal, like a 3-course, like proper meal.
Okay, I think
And-
these are two different things, but I take your point that this doesn't seem
There's
the
an
FC
equal-
Basel
Yeah,
story seems not right,
yeah.
right? So if we can get back to Ada, is it Hergerberg?
Hergerberg, I think. Let's go with Hergerberg.
Has she listed? She's boycotting, but has she listed
No, she
a
hasn't
list
came out
of
and say why.
sort of demands or to say, okay, if this is met or if this looks right,
I don't think so.
then I will play.
In all honesty, I don't think that we know. I think that is kind of an underreported part of the story.
Yeah.
If she has, but you know, we don't like to negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah.
So
Because this is key. Like, we understand. Okay, so this is key.
Just now, I thought you were here trying to win some women's hearts.
but I don't negotiate with terrorists.
Okay.
Like, do you see? So, what is it that she's after? Is she after? So, go back to the sum of money, and because we don't know what other factors, let's just go
To the
start
World
with
Cup.
this. Let's just start with
the
this.
World Cup pool
So-
money, the prize pool.
So the men's prize money has increased from 400 to 440. So that's an increase of $40 million.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can say that's an increase of 10%, right?
Yep.
The women's prize money has increased from what?
15 to
15 to 40?
30.
30.
30. So
Increased
double.
by
They
40
doubled.
million.
15 million to 30 million.
Where is it? That's it. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So to 30. So that's an increase of 15 million or 100%. Okay. So I'm just wondering, do they want the women's prize money to be boosted or maybe the men's to come down to 200 and meet them equally? What is adequate for for Ada or for anyone else?
First of all, I want to say like that I do not think her primary gripe
Is
is
prize pool,
around
yeah.
the FIFA World Cup prize money.
That's probably one of it.
That's the first thing I'll say. This article, like reading from this article that's up from the ABC, right? I'll read it verbatim, right? Her political stand is understood in a context in which FIFA has raised prize money for the Women's World Cup in 2019 from a total of 15 million to 30 million. So I'm not sure if she's even ever come out and said, oh, the reason is because of the prize money. But this article in particular is talking in general
Yep.
around women's sport
Alex Morgan.
and the pay in women's sport and prize money in women's sport.
Yeah.
So I just want to make that clear that I'm not sure that she has said it is because of this World Cup prize money. In fact, I probably don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
So, do you know Alex Morgan? Do you know Alex Morgan?
Yep.
The U.S. American forward for the U.S. women's national team. She also came out and complained that it's still, despite doubling it 100%, she believes it's still the prize money is still so far behind. And I mean, the U.S. Women's team have been famously well known for complaining about them not being paid as much as the men's national team, and despite them being more successful than the men's national soccer team.
Right. So what is the crux of this? What is their? Do they want parity? Do they want equality? Do they want 80%, 70%? What is the goal here?
What do you want? What do you want? It's not that simple.
What
It's,
do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
That's why I don't think, and that is a great question
That is a
because
very good
I think that is something that a lot of people ask, and I actually don't think that there's an answer actually.
Yeah.
I don't think that people are gonna go. We want to if it's 95% of the men's prize money, that's yep, we have achieved equality. I don't think so, right? I think it's something that will continue to change and evolve.
Yeah.
What I do think, however, is that, and this is particular to, for example, the WNBA.
Yeah.
The players in the WNBA in the past couple of years have brought up this issue of pay, where men's players are paid millions and millions and millions, like
Yeah.
tens of millions of dollars, whereas women's players struggle to get $100,000 contracts.
Yeah.
Now that is a disparity by an order of many magnitudes.
Mhm.
By an order of many magnitudes. And I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of the prominent WNBA players, one of the best players in the league, I remember a few months back, came out and said, look, we're not stupid. We are not asking to be paid the same as men, but we are asking that there is more, that there is just more.
A bit more, yeah. Because I think
When you say more, what is more? It's a bit nebulous.
I agree.
Like, obviously, the women's, the WNBA isn't paid nearly as much as the men. And technically, it's actually not the men's. But okay, let's set that aside. Well, actually, it's very important. Okay, which we'll get to in a second. But what is more? Look, we understand that you deserve what you get. Like, I don't know what the right phrase is, right? Everybody deserves their fair share, right? If if an administrative body is taking more from women's players because they feel like the women's players don't have enough of a clout to take the issue to the media, then that's one thing.
Yeah.
Right. But if, for example, the governing body is dishing out equal amounts proportionately, then I'm hard pressed to see how it is that that what is more to the female basketball players or football players.
Yeah. So I think for the NBA and the WNBA, for me, it's hard to say without really understanding the context of, like you said, how the money is split up.
Yeah.
I do have a suspicion that there is probably room to raise the WNBA salary caps.
Yeah.
I have a suspicion it is, and that is partly driven by the fact that there's worldwide broadcasting deals.
Yeah.
And so, yes, but how about we bring it back to something that maybe potentially you know more about, which is tennis.
Yeah.
I know that for a long time, and this is driven a lot by Serena Williams.
Oh, Serena.
And Venus.
And Venus, that there is a push towards parity in prize money between the men's and the women's game. What do you think about that?
Are you asking me?
Yep.
Okay. What I think about is, I think we're missing what we get confused is thinking it's the same game. And it's actually not. It is the same game, but it's two different entities, two separate entities, really, is the way we should look at it. Okay? And if I know people may this may sound that there's this bias against, but it's actually not. If we should just look at it as
Harry hates women.
as a different men's, or actually technically it's, if you're talking about basketball, if you're talking about non-individual sports, there's no such thing as a men's league.
Yeah.
It's just a league. And there just happens to be the best players in that league, let's say the NBA or the Premier League or the NFL. It just so happens that the best players in the league are men. Now, so in terms of inequity, yes, it's a fundamental inequity between men and women, because in sports, what's highly valued is testosterone. Correct? Yes?
I'm going to sit down and I don't know.
No, actually it is, because testosterone is the hormone that gives power and speed and many other things. Many other things that's highly valued in sports, in professional sports, in certainly the most popular professional sports. In fact, any sports by definition is something that requires some sort of practical movement. even if it's archery or something, right? Because if you can do it, some sport that's theoretical like chess, and it's not considered a sport anymore, and then
Athletic effort.
yeah, something like it doesn't have to be intense, like golf, for example.
Is chess not considered a sport?
It's considered a game because you can theoretically do it in abstract. So I think that's the definition between sport and game.
Right.
Okay, so any sort of sport, I would argue, in different quotient, utilizes speed, power, the ability to jump, and there's also obviously skill.
Yeah.
Now, skill is only a component of what is highly valued in sports.
Yeah.
And skills, if you want to say skills are equally distributed between two genders, let's go with that. I'm not sure if it is, but let's go with that. But certainly, other factors that's highly valued, like speed and what strength, power, that is not equally distributed among the sexes.
Yep.
And in sports, we don't really care who it is. Sports is meant to be a meritocracy, correct?
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. If you can play, you can play. So
Yeah.
in other words, so this will come off as it's a terrible injustice. Maybe it is. But if we're going to talk about sports, if we're going to talk about meritocracy, then the reason why people like to watch sports is because they want to watch the best athletes with the best skills. And at the extreme end of a bell curve, the best players are almost always the men. If you're going to group them all together, correct? There's two bell curves, and men is to the far right of it. So my point is, the reason why we watch sports at the highest level is because they are the best athletes with the best
We
skills.
watch something impossible done
Yes.
by these athletes.
And this is just a quirk of biology. Women just don't happen to have, even the best women.
That's why people like watching the Olympics. That's why people want to know who is the fastest human being.
Yep.
Not gender. Human. Who's the fastest?
Although Olympics, I would say, is slightly different because it's more of a human interest story. Whereas the reason why we watch sports at the highest level is because they're the best players, regardless of gender or age or weight or division or any of that. And it just so happens that. So the point is, I think we're missing the point of giving equality for the sake of equality, where in actually the very reason why we watch sports is to watch people on the professional sports, is to watch people on the highest end. Now, people can still go to the local suburbs to watch the local league, to watch an under 15 league. That's fine, but that's just for the pleasure of it. That's just for the sort of the local cultural kind of camaraderie. It's not what we're talking about when we're talking about professional sports where $1 million contracts are awarded. So I think if people can understand that, then they can perhaps understand that this is just through sheer quirk of biology. You can say it is unfair, right? It is unfair. You're born, you have this 2 X chromosomes. I think I'm getting this right.
Yeah.
And you're just going to...
Some people have 3.
Okay, but generally speaking, just by almost
Are you shaming?
but-
Shaming 3 chromosomes.
just by
No comment.
a sheer sort of, loosely 50-50%, 50-50 sort of odds, someone will have an abundance of testosterone and someone will not.
Okay.
That's
Alright.
it. So
That's right. That's
Bring this back for me.
Yes.
Bring this back for me, Harry.
bring this back for you. Okay.
How does this relate to pay?
Well, pay is really dependent on popularity, correct? Like, if we look at it from just pick an obscure sport like squash.
Yep.
Should they be entitled to whoever the best player is? It could be the greatest player of all time in squash. Should that person, let's say male or female, whoever it is,
Nicole David.
yeah. Nicola
Okay.
David.
should that person be entitled to the same amount of pay as the best tennis player, female or male? Should they be?
Well, it depends where the money's derived from, right?
That's my point. The point is, it should not be dependent on the relative scale. It should be dependent on whatever money is available in that sport. And I'm using this squash as an example, precisely because squash is has nowhere near the popularity and the money in a circuit as tennis.
Yep.
So that's why I said we've got to look at it differently. It's a different tour for men and for women, or certainly a different. So it's not even a different tour for the NBA and the WNBA. The WNBA is really a subset. Yeah. It's almost like we put together an age group where we want, because women, again, to be fair, to just scientifically speaking, they just don't have a shot. Like if you put a woman in the NBA game, they're not going to have a shot at it. They're not going to get on the floor.
Yeah, it's like how I would beat Ronda Rousey up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how Peter would definitely beat Ronda Rousey.
Okay, right. But that's right. Okay, so right. So in that sense, we have a women's league to enable participation for women, without realizing that it's really just this isn't to be insulting, but this is almost like a separate weight division or a separate age group where if they were to be thrown in sort of like the heavyweight, whoever it is will have no shot at it.
Right. So what is Serena's argument for equal prize money for women in tennis?
I think tennis I wouldn't say it's unique, but it comes closest to parity.
Yeah, it's a sport, from my research, is the closest parity.
There's a couple, one is they actually play at the Grand Slams.
Yeah.
They play at the same event, right? Like they take the same court, one after another.
Yeah.
Whereas
same crowd, same
they
viewership.
They participate. They're in different draws, but they're in separate. They're in the same. They're on the same courts. They share the same facility, not the same change rooms, obviously, but the same courts and so forth.
Yeah.
And
what's wrong with gender neutral bathrooms, man? I don't know.
Okay, so and I think
you have a problem with them, Justin.
I got no problem.
Issues.
I got no problem with it.
So I would say that
episode 6.
No problem with gender neutral bathrooms, by the way.
Okay, so
Lies.
True, you can listen. It was recorded.
People can
have problems.
People can go listen.
I think only Trevor had the problem.
Okay, so
Trevor do.
what was my train of thought? So
sorry.
I think in terms of symbolism, the fact that they share the same court, that it's okay to pay them the same, but in terms of popularity, it's still not equal. It comes close. Whatever the number is, it's 80, 90%. Like it's come closest to... Tennis is the sport that comes closest with matching women's popularity to men's than any other sport, and I'll give you a reason for that, but it still doesn't come 100%. So I think it's the best... I think both parties are better off by having equal prize money at the Grand Slams, just for symbolism's sake. And I think there is something to that. But I think in terms of other tours, separate tours, I wouldn't go by that because the market it doesn't work like that unless you get a subsidy. Now, the reason why, in my mind, tennis comes closest to parity is this. Tennis isn't necessarily a sport where we value high-flying sort of athleticism in this way. Think about the greatest or the heaviest hitter of men or serve. Think about how a match would develop with two sort of heavy-hitting men. It's just going to be aces, right? There's not going to be rallies, right? So in tennis, it's almost, I would call, like a subtle sort of collusion between... The entertainment value is derived on a subtle collusion with two opponents battling it out.
And where there's a bit of parity in terms of...
There's a bit of parity, and I think you can make a case sometimes with women, there's going to be more rallies going on. There's going to provide more entertainment value compared to men. So therefore, it comes close, but it's still not going to be... It's still not going to be sort of matching it 100 to 100.
It's still not going to probably like outshow maybe like a hard-hitting serve or a hard-hitting forehand.
No, because men isn't just all
No, but that
aces and unreturnable serves.
Yeah, but
right?
there's a bit of value in it, but it's just not as much as a rally, right? A rally is still the crux of tennis.
So think about the NBA. Let's say a sport that is more highly valued in terms of the testosterone.
Yeah.
Basketball.
Yeah.
Women, not many women can dunk.
Yeah.
Right. Men can, and men they're just faster. They just can jump higher.
Drive.
It's more exciting.
Yeah.
Right. It's less about exciting games. Obviously, they do have some.
There's more action.
There's more action. We want to see high flying stuff. There's more. People value less of the high flying power game because that's just going to be aces, people walking
more
from one
finesse.
side to one side. They want to see more rallies and
Finesse and technique.
and that's more value, and therefore that's why
Okay.
women, relatively speaking, does better in tennis than almost any other sport.
Okay.
So if you can understand the philosophy behind that, then perhaps we can understand sort of the disparity in pay, which isn't really an issue, or it's certainly an issue debated on the wrong premise, in my opinion. Now
Okay.
the floor is yours, Justin.
Oh, wait, so but you think that women should get paid the same as men on the tennis circuit?
Okay, I think it should be dependent on the market, okay, on economics. With this exception, in the Grand Slams, it's only 4 tournaments in a year. Even though if you can argue that it's not strictly, women don't strictly draw the same amount of popularity, I think both worlds, or everyone is better off if you just make it equal. So in the Grand Slams, when everyone is participating, I'm okay with, in fact, I would advocate for equal pay. But in terms of the tours, the separate tours that
other
the
small
men's and
tournaments,
the men and women, which is mostly drawn on business,
Yep.
right, on sponsors and television, it would be dependent on whatever the market dictates.
Okay.
So do you does that answer your question?
Yep. Yeah.
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 Do you
So,
agree?
I'm not sure about the tennis. I've heard the argument against it, which is
Against what?
the tennis one, and I don't think this is a particularly strong argument.
Against equal pay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where some have said, well, women play 3 sets, men play 5.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I've heard that. I don't necessarily agree with that argument.
Yeah.
I will.
Although it plays to a part into demand, though. You have to admit, right?
Yeah. So I will.
But that's only at the Grand Slams. It's not at the tour level tournament.
yeah.
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 So, but I will come back to say this thing you mentioned around testosterone being highly valued. I think that's quite interesting because
Okay.
I think that for me, the way to look at this issue is quite simple, and it's within. And
Wait,
this is
can you ask, how is it interesting? I just think it would be straightforward.
so it's interesting in the sense that if I'm allowed to finish my point.
I'm sorry.
Where I think that sports actually is not for, I think for most people watching sports, it is not actually about we want to see who jumps higher. We want to see who hits harder. We want to see, whatever. I don't actually think it's about that. I think sports these days, and sportsmen and sportswomen, what they are really, they're entertainers.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They're entertainers. I understand in certain things, for example, people might watch, for example, the 100-meter dash at the Olympics. That is one clear example where I can think, yes, people want to see who runs faster. I get that. But, and this is before you brought up that point around tennis, that I was just about to say that, where, if you've got one hulking massive dude in tennis, it's not entertaining to watch him just smash everyone off the court with just,
Right.
like 1,000 aces in a row.
Yeah.
That's not entertaining. Right? People want to watch close contests.
Yeah.
And also, again, the part where I
Not
disagree.
necessarily.
Well, the part
people want
where-
to see the
Let
best
them finish,
players.
let them finish,
The
let them
part
finish.
where I disagree against testosterone being
The most
I guess
highly
the
rated.
most highly rated thing
Yeah.
is that there are sports where, with the women's version of sport is more popular.
Yes, I agree. When there's, again, this isn't to sound sexist, this is just the way it is. When a sport values grace,
Yeah.
and I can think of figure skating and gymnastics,
Yeah.
that's when the women's version is more popular,
Yeah.
right? But in terms of the more professional sports, if I can just rebut, because I don't want you to go on without me saying that, you're saying it's about entertainment, Melly. That's true. But what drives entertainment? It's great players. That drives entertainment, correct?
Harry.
Yep.
No one is denying that there is a difference in entertainment value when you watch the under 13s against, the full-fledged professional teams. Obviously, there is a difference, right? If that one you can talk about, is a skill level difference, right? What I am saying is that I think it's foolish for professional female athletes to come out and say, in many sports, and again, I'm generalizing, and obviously there are certain sports
Yeah,
which
yeah,
yes
okay,
and
in
no,
general,
but
wellness,
in
yeah.
general, it is foolish to say we deserve to get paid the same as men,
Right.
because at the end of the day, for me, the prize money comes from somewhere,
Yeah.
and it's pure economics.
Yeah.
Right.
The prize money generally comes from sponsors,
Mhm.
right? And sponsors will sponsor a certain amount based on how much exposure they can get.
Yep.
Yes.
Right? So if you want to look, for example, at, let's say, the Women's World Cup compared to the Men's World Cup,
Mhm.
I think we can all very, very, very safely say that the Men's World Cup drives shitloads more sponsorship money than the Women's World Cup, because at the end of the day, no one really cares about the Women's World Cup. Okay?
I understand what you're saying. Yes.
Right.
I do.
So,
I respect women, by the way.
I respect women as well.
love
I
you,
think
woman.
it's correct. I think it's wrong for women to say we want equal pay in a sport, for example, such as football.
Okay.
However, I think that a lot of the more nuanced argument and a lot of the argument, the more modern argument that is being put forward, is is along the lines of that thinking and understanding of the economic situation, in the sense that women are not asking for equal pay, but they're asking for a bigger
more.
share of the pie that comes in.
Hold on, but are you talking about the pie in terms of? See, this is where the crux of the thing, the argument is.
Should I take it from the men's sport or
What
should I
is the
take it from
pie? Is the pie just in general,
The
say
whole sport?
football, or is the pie just women's football?
Yeah.
That's what the crux of it is.
Exactly, but see, the pie is different, right? Depending on the sport and depending on what we're talking about. For example, right? If you ask me, when the women go to the Women's World Cup and when the men go to the Men's World Cup, should they stay in the same standard of hotel? My answer is yes. Why not? Right? Now that money to accommodate the players
Yep.
in hotel comes from the FA.
Yep.
And the FA has a budget,
Yeah.
right? So if the pie in that context is yes, we are talking about the FA budget, where something will need to be, I guess, compromised in order to provide the women the same level of accommodation. That is the pie in that situation, right?
I'm not. I have to think about this, but I'm not. I understand what you're saying in terms of the FA is overseeing both the men and the women.
Yes.
But if you just do this thought experiment for squash, again, just an obscure sport, that's a legitimate sport, right? Or what's a team sport that volleyball,
Yeah.
right? Which no one argues is on anywhere near the same scale as football. So if, let's say, the dream team, right?
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Ivan Perisic plays, professionally for
Right.
the male volleyball.
By the way, volleyball, I think, is another sport in which the women's game is more popular than
I think
men's.
you're talking about beach volleyball.
I think both, actually.
No,
Okay.
I think both.
I think both.
I'm not. I don't think so. But fine. Let's table that for a second. So okay, let's volleyball. Do we agree volleyball is not on nearly on the same scale as football or basketball, right?
Yes.
So
Okay.
should the volleyball, men's or women's, ask for the same amount of hotel accommodation as, say, the dream team, who gets to stay in the 6-7 star hotel?
Again, you've got to look at it within the context of the sport, right? I think,
That's why you said,
like I
yeah.
said, the more modern nuanced argument is not going to say we want the exact same pay, but it's going to be we just want a bigger share of the pie. Now, you are saying that a women's volleyball team is going to ask for the same accommodation as the men's USA basketball team.
Or let's say the
Now
men's.
but that is completely different sports, right? And that is I don't think most people can support that argument, but I think they will support the argument that when the women's volleyball teams go somewhere,
Yeah.
they want the same standard of accommodation as
Yeah.
the men's volleyball team.
Same treatment,
Hold
same
on,
treatment.
wait. It's same. Well, what makes a difference between men's volleyball to women's volleyball than men's volleyball to women's or any sports, any of the mainstream sports?
The pie is different. The pie that
Is that a separate pie?
yes. Why must it all be in this? There's no pie that says sports pie, right? Because the money is derived from somewhere, right? For example, the FA.
Right, so are you saying the men's, let's say men's volleyball and women's volleyball, are they two separate pies or they're the one pie?
Harry,
Justin.
when the men's volleyball team goes somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
right, and when the women's volleyball team goes somewhere, who is that paid for? Who pays for that?
again, is it? It might be from the same association. Let's just say.
Yes.
But okay, so let me ask you something. Let's say the under England, let's say the FA, right? There's a under 21 team.
Yeah.
That's under the auspices of the FA. They pay for it, right?
Yeah.
If they can pay for it. So if the men's team or the women's team ask for a 5-star hotel or 6-star hotel at the plushest hotel there is, should the under 21s be entitled to the same hotel?
Well, then that becomes a different question.
Well,
right?
how is it a different? Well, how is that different than say men's and women's? And again, this
That's
will
the
come.
senior team, right?
Yeah. First of all, that's a senior team. Second,
Forget about is that all there is? Seniors. So just because you're the I just want us to differentiate. Are they just the same pie, or are they different pies?
First of all, I think there are very clear grades.
We're about to
Right.
get into a rabbit hole here, so I'm going to steer you guys away.
No.
Let Justin just
Let me
finish.
finish
it.
it. I think there are clear grades in the sense that, when you talk about the senior team and the under 21s, under 15s, or whatever, right? Those are clear grades in terms of, experience and skill and all that sort of stuff. And you could possibly say that once you make it to the senior team, you are rewarded for that. However, right, I think that for example, if the men's England under 21 football team goes to the under 21 World Cup, and the women's under 21 football team goes to their women's under 21, they should both stay at the same level of hotel. Because what happens is then the basis for what you're saying is that your only discriminating factor between the two is one is a man and one is a woman.
No,
that's your only discriminating
no.
factor.
People get it wrong. It's not about when is a man, when is woman. It's about economics. Now, I'm not arguing, just like I'm arguing for equal pay at Grand Slams. Even if it's not done strictly on economic merit, it might be done on symbolism. In this case, I might argue for both the men and the women of the senior, or both the men and the women, or the boys and the girls in the junior, to have the same accommodation facilities. So I'm not arguing against that. What I am saying is that we got to get in the notion of we're not differentiating by gender. We're just differentiating by quality, okay? And that quality is split down the line by gender. That's all. So it's not about the gender. Like, I know it is, but it's actually not, because Pep Guardiola or whoever the coach is, they're not opposed. It's no rule against them signing a player who happens to be female. There is no rule in the Premier League. It's not the men's league. People say it's the men's. It's actually not the men's. It's not the men's NBA. It's actually not.
So you mean United can sign
Absolutely.
Hergerberg?
Absolutely. Okay. Do you know why? And again, this is just biology. They're just not good enough. They're not good enough.
Harry, I think most people can agree with you.
Right.
Most people, I think, will agree
let's
with
not
you.
get into it. We understand that. Okay,
Right.
Justin, just go finish it.
But I don't know why you don't understand my point. It's not separated by gender. It's just each.
No, but this is no. So okay, do you think
because that they are both like let's take football as an example, right? The men's team and the women's team, they are both at the top of their so-called
Game.
quality level in their game, right? One is the men's football. One is the
football, and one is the women's football.
game.
No, sorry,
right?
no, we got it wrong. One is just football. One is a subdirection. And again, this will sound terrible, but that's just the way it is. One is just football. Another is a subsection for women, because so we can allow them. And again, this
allow them?
No.
So we can allow them out the house.
No.
Out of the kitchen.
I might have to rephrase that
respect
word.
women.
I might have to rephrase that word. But my point is, it's so women can participate in their own league, so they're not feel overmatched. That's what it is.
Okay.
Okay. So we need to get that.
Yeah, but I think
I'll
there's
play with
not-
a professional
there's-
woman footballer, and she spanked me. So I think women football.
But I think there's nothing
Great.
there's nothing wrong with
Spanked.
offering the same support to players or sportswomen or sportsmen or whatever who are at the top of their own class.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. So I'll give you a thought experiment. Suppose someone.
Last thought experiment. No more.
Okay, this isn't about class. This is class of a pie. If the second division team of let's say the championship, whatever the second division of the championship team, whatever the team is, right? If there's probably more money in that than say the women's Premier League.
I would say so.
I
I
would
would say
say so.
100% actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so should they be treated? Should they be afforded? Should the championship team be on a lower level in terms of accommodation just because they're not on the same level, or they're on a level supposedly below that of the women? Like again, this.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to. Okay,
we
no,
know
but
your
you understand my
question.
point.
Okay, go.
So that actually does not really matter, because that will be in a sense decided by the club, right? The club is the one that spends that money,
We're
right?
talking
Whereas
about
we're
the
talking
national
about a
team.
national association, where it's their duty as a national association to look out for the development and grassroots of the sport. Now, speaking specifically to this accommodation issue,
Yeah.
let us think: what is the reason that is given for, let's say, the men's football team to stay in 5-star hotels and to get 100 support staff go with them?
Yeah.
Right? It's so that they are in the best condition as possible
To compete.
at the highest level that they can.
Yeah.
Now, by not affording this same treatment to the women, are you saying that no, we don't need to provide this to women? We don't need them to perform at the highest level. We don't care if they do or not.
Okay, I think we're still missing the point. Don't compare it to. It's all relative. I get it, but we human beings are all relative. But they're looking at it just from a.
What does that mean? As in,
It's all. They're only looking at people.
But technically, they have to
beside-
go back far enough.
Huh? What?
oh, okay. Anyways,
Go on.
Go on.
I understand. Okay, so human beings, they
No,
only
just
they-
answer the question. Should they
okay.
not get? Should they not get the hotels?
It's not about getting the hotels. It's allocated. Look. I think you can make it go away by making it the same. So there is some argument to that. And sometimes I would say I'm strictly against any FA or any sort of league who takes advantage of, say, the women's players because they don't have as much bargaining power as men. Right?
Okay.
So I'm against that. And if there is some
Harry is basically saying he respects women.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, understand the nuance. But if there is a finite amount of budget and you have to allocate whatever amount of budget to, say, the football team,
Yeah.
whatever amount of budget to the women's team,
Yeah.
whatever amount of budget to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
under 21s,
And it's different- it's different, right?
So,
Yeah.
so I'm not arguing that it has to be different, but I'm saying if it is different, I can understand it.
Okay.
I can understand it.
Okay. Then okay, we understand.
Do-
Do you understand?
I mean, what I want to say is that basically you're saying the proportions should change. The proportions. Basically, I think what the women are saying is that the proportions should change. Because, like I said, it comes
No,
back.
are they arguing for equal? Because I think that's
Not. I think they are okay because we established at the start that we don't know exactly what they want. But what Justin's saying, this is one of the arguments
the
that
modern
you feel.
the modern argument.
The modern
is
argument.
not. They're not saying they
For
should be
parity.
paid the same.
Yeah,
They're not saying that they should be paid the same,
but they should be treated
because
with
that
the
does
same
not
care.
make sense.
Treated with the care, right?
But hold on, but if you want the same amount of accommodation, then that's essentially equal payment because ultimately it is about the finances, right? I mean, we're putting this in
No,
the very crude terms, but that's essentially what they're demanding equal pay in terms of accommodation.
No, but like I mean, if
Which
it's-
is goes
if it-
against what-
Okay, if we're beating like a dead horse almost. So I'm saying what if it's like a World Cup, right? Like where the prize money isn't really the main thing. It's like more of the symbolism of winning the World Cup, right? So wouldn't you want to prepare your women's team as well as you prepare the men team?
You're talking about as an FA?
Yeah, as an FA for the sport.
Well, I mean, if we be honest here, the FA
Is
would,
the World Cup the reason why teams want to win World Cup? The main reason I really don't think it's because the prize money surely is one of the
Yeah,
primary.
but the players don't care about the
yeah,
prize money.
dude. They want that
They
history.
make more money in a
okay.
week at their club.
But the FA is-
just
yeah.
answer the question. We really answered it in all those different angles and different layers.
would you agree that the FA would prioritize the football team,
The men's football team,
who happens to be all men, versus the women's team? Would you agree or disagree?
I mean, if you're a country, I think you should look at it irregardless of men and female. But I mean, if you're the football association, it would be probably different because that's more of money, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
You just answered my question.
you're
And-
talking
and
about the association.
I'm just talking about people in
No,
general.
I'm talking about if you're the country should look at it irregardless.
The football association is part of the country, though.
Okay, then
Like, it oversees the game in the
then
country.
okay, I think it should be irregardless then
What
of
do you mean?
gender. Like it's more of a national kind of like you want to win both.
Is
right?
that fair?
I think if you want to win both, yeah, it's fair.
Okay, so what if a basketball team, or let's say a softball team says, hey, football teams gets this amount of subsidy from the government. Well, we should get the same. Is that fair? Well,
from
for
the
the
government.
Olympics, yeah. Or let's say whatever it is, like
For the Olympics, yeah.
should they have the same?
Because
Like, every sport.
because a male and female gold medal is equal the same. It's a gold medal, right? Whether
Right,
it's the
but
male.
should they have the right? So suppose.
Maybe the importance being put on it by us as fans is different, but at the end of the day, it's a gold
So
medal.
should someone has no shot at taekwondo, right? Let's say, and I want the same amount of funding as the presumptive world champion, Olympic champion in swimming or whatever. Should that person be allowed the same financial investment by the sports association as? So let's say if I'm a swimmer, I have no hope, but I want to go for it, right? And am I entitled to the same amount of investment as, say, Michael Phelps is if I'm an American?
Okay, first of all,
Isn't that different?
calm down.
No, it's not different.
Calm down. But what you're saying actually is you're saying it on the assumption that these people don't understand how big the pie is, right?
Yeah.
The reason that I say that wouldn't like a softball player won't ask for the same level of whatever as a football player is and this happens every year, by the way.
Yeah.
Is because these associations derive their money primarily, like the associations we take care of sports around in the country, they derive their money primarily from government, right? Primarily from their governments through sporting grants and through the sports ministry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every year within the budget, there is amount that's allocated by the federal government through their sporting ministry, through grants and all that sort of things, to different sports in order to develop the sport on a national level. Now, every year, every association lobbies, right? They lobby in order to get more money for the associate, which will allow them to provide more for the practitioners of their sport.
Okay, so if all the money that's been granted, should that be divided equally between all sports, or should they take into account the prevalence of a sport?
That's not what I
But that's not what we're saying.
It's the same thing, though.
No, it's not at all. It's
How
not
so?
at all. Because what you're saying is then softball will come and say, "Hey, we should get the same money as football," to the sports ministry.
Right, but you're not saying that, right?
No,
I'm
we're not
not.
saying that.
Yeah.
No.
So why are we treating softball and football different, and we're not treating the men's and the women's different? Just because they play the same game, but in actual fact, we're not playing the same game. It's a different league. They don't cross over.
I would say it's a different league.
Yeah, that's right. So if we're treating them as different leagues, we should treat them as different leagues regardless of sport.
Because it is, and by the way, this is focused around the structure of football in where it's driven a lot by football associations, and we're not talking about the club side of things, which is quite different.
Yeah.
But it's because the National Association, I think, what's their charter? What is their charter, Harry, for a national association? What's their charter?
You tell me.
Their charter is to take care and develop the sport within their country.
Yeah.
That is their charter, right? Regardless of gender, regardless of age or whatever, that is their charter, right? It's to help development of the sport
To the best of his abilities.
and all that sort of thing. Now, you wanna argue that, for example, men's football and women's football, you want to see them as though they are
Still not-
as though they are
you're still
different
not
sports,
phrasing it correctly,
as
but
though
okay.
they are different sports, right? As though they're different sports.
Do you think they're different sports or not?
They are playing the same game by the same rules. They are in different classes. I do agree. They are in different classes, but there are two people still at the top of but there are two. There's men at the top of their men's
Respective
class
game
and women's at the top of their women's class.
Okay, but you're not. I know you can differentiate that, but how can you not differentiate?
The economics.
Like a squash is a different game, but it's a different league as well. Should the squash association be afforded the same amount of investment as well? Like it doesn't. Like your logic sort of falls apart there.
No, I think your logic falls apart actually,
No.
because you're saying the squash league should be given more money by the government.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the squash league should be given. Again, national associations are a little bit different. That you do have to. It's an investment thing. It's not strictly on a merit-based thing.
Yeah.
But I think if we're going to paint that, hey, the women only have sort of can only stay at sort of ramshackle sort of motels, then I would disagree. I would say that's no good. But if you're telling me that they might invest a little bit more to the football team that happens to be all men, maybe they're in a 6-star luxurious sort of hotel versus, say, the women's who might be in a 5-star hotel. If there's a slight difference, I'm not sure. I'm not sure there is a lot of inequity in that.
Yeah, and maybe I think that argument that point, I can sort of agree with you. But I think what is happening in reality is that it's not the men are going to the 6-star and the women are going to the 5s. Is that the men are going to the 5s and the women are going to the 2-star motels.
Is that the case?
That is the reality.
Well, we have to look at. I mean,
Okay,
if that's the case, if that's the case, then I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But I just don't. If you're saying we should,
You're saying women votes right now.
no. You're saying like if they're talking about pay, that we shouldn't argue
No, we're
necessarily
not-
for
we're not
equal
talking
pay.
about pay. We're
Then,
talking about the
then we
conditions.
shouldn't
We're talking about,
necessarily
like, trying to prepare them for the
argue
best.
for the same amount of. In a way, this is the financial investment as well. Correct.
I think for a World Cup, it's not really, but okay. Like, let's not go into this. Like, I think we're going to end up nowhere.
Okay,
So-
but
Let's just okay.
That's fine, Harry. I'll leave you with the final word and we'll sign off.
No, that's a bit anticlimactic. So let's go with your sentence, and then you go with your sentence. Then I'll go with mine.
Honestly, I've said, I think I've presented my view and it's up to whoever to decide.
but we're only hitting that one small
agree.
part of the
I agree.
iceberg.
Yeah, one part of the
But we're
iceberg,
talking about if you're talking about the equal pay, where are you on that? Or if you're talking about
He
athletes,
said it already. He said no.
I think we want to talk about, like, if you want to talk about numerically equal, that doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
But I think
Agreed.
most people agree with that.
Okay. No, but what he was trying to fight on was like conditions, right? Like try to prepare them.
But
for
that's
the
a very
best.
small component that we're sort
one
of getting
aspect
caught
of
on.
it. Yeah, that's one
I think we're
aspect of it is the caught. I think the one where, you know, it was like, oh, you know, like...
Yeah, we're not talking about like there
like-
should be this prize money should be like, you know, this pie should be given onto them so it's equal. We understand that, but
No.
we should prepare. Okay, no.
Like, I think you are confused now. But basically, I understand. Yeah, we went on about a small part of it.
Yeah, okay.
But if you want to talk about, you know, like,
can
for
we get back
example,
to
like,
just quickly get
like-
back on the larger
like
picture, right?
LeBron James is getting paid 200 mil. So whoever's the best basketball player in there should get 200 mil as well. I say, no, definitely not.
No.
That doesn't make sense. Economically and financially, it doesn't make
Best-
sense. But
Okay.
I think the modern argument is not that.
Okay, so you're talking about its entertainment value, right? Sports ultimately is about entertainment value.
Yes.
What's entertainment? And I think you're missing the point about sort of the testosterone part of it because we value players with speed. That's a big part of it. That's why, to me, Mbappe, for example, is vastly overrated.
I
Because
think
of
I
the
just
speed.
don't put as much weight on it as you. Whereas I
people
put more
value
weight on the
sports differently,
entertainment
yeah.
value than on
But what
the,
makes it
the
entertaining is because part of the skill, someone is able to break away, get into open space
Yeah,
because of
we
his
talked
speed.
about this now. So
Okay.
let's move. Let's move on to a different. Okay, let's
So
end it
about
with
the-
no. Let's end it with this. Who do you think? I put a question on Quora on who mostly watches. I mean, so this is an answer to kind of how we can support female sports more. And I think what I want to make the point is, guys support female sports. It seems like more than the females do, in a sense where males tend to watch more female sports than girls do.
I think males in general tend to consume
More
sports,
sports in general.
as an
Yes, so-
entertainment
so-
medium. I think that's pretty clear.
This is basically a message to all the girls who want women to be paid as much, but they don't watch women's sports. I just want to show you that we as men here support women because we watch all your sports.
Well, that's not true, but all right.
I do. I watch women's soccer.
What's the last women's sport you watched?
the last one?
What women's sport did you watch this week?
Oh, okay. It wasn't this week, but it was a month ago. That's quite recent, right?
I guess.
I watched Ronda
proportion-
Rousey beat
Let
up
him
3
finish.
girls in WWE. Oh,
Okay, I mean, yeah, okay.
Okay,
okay.
oh,
Yeah,
live.
fair enough.
Becky Flair
Okay, but
against...
give me a proportion, like in terms of how much women's sport versus how much time do you devote to men's sport?
98-10.
Okay.
What about you?
So just based
Okay, what about
strictly
you?
on your unscientific sort of example, personal example,
No.
if we think that pay is somewhat...
No, we did the pay. Okay,
Right.
no. But,
So are you saying...
I'm just saying that I'm just trying to make a point that we men here are out here actually supporting the women's game. How much women's sports do you watch
I would say the only sport...
in the last year? Just go last year.
I watch tennis, women's tennis.
Okay. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, maybe the tennis, but
Maybe it's just like, yeah, kind of supporting.
no, I
it.
mean, no. When it hits the final and it's on TV, I'll watch it. You know, I'm not the biggest tennis follower, regardless.
Okay, one more segue. I have an idea on how WNBA could be more exciting. If they lowered if you think about it, what if they lowered the hoops and put the 3-point line closer? That means there'll be more 3 points, more you'll basically give the women the chance to be able to dunk and stuff, and it'll make it more entertaining.
See, this is where I disagree with you. It's less about the dunks and stuff. It's about seeing the best And I mean athletes, not in just in terms of pure speed, but just in terms of pure sports people. Okay, when we watch basketball, we want to watch the best.
No,
we're not watching the best
create
for
favorable
a certain category of people, for example.
Yeah,
right?
I know. But if you create, I mean, don't you think
You're
if
trying
you
to create excitement for excitement's sake, but
Yeah,
people's
but
not going to draw into
I think
watching the
it'll
dunks.
draw some people. Okay, I think it'll draw more entertainment than what the WNBA is currently doing, which is wasting a lot of money from the NBA.
Maybe it will create some because, okay, let me ask you something. Are you watching the NBA because for the dunks? Are you watching the NBA because they're the best players? I'm
Well,
sure dunks
I
Pause.
just watch it because the basketball is a bit
Sorry,
faster.
sorry,
and there's more dunks and more.
sorry to intrude, but pause. Didn't you say 20 minutes ago when we were talking about basketball and you talking about the testosterone? I remember you said specifically that the dunks are part of the reason why people watch the game.
Yeah, it's less about the dunk so much as
Dun, 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 dun.
when someone is able to dunk, that's a 90% field goal percentage versus Steph Curry who can only lay it up. That's maybe a 70%. So when I say dunk, it's part of it is like, because it takes on a life of its own, but it's mostly because you're.
No, it's part of the reason. Okay, it's
It's
definitely
part of the,
part
but
of the
most
reason.
of the more if you're able to dunk versus if you're not able to dunk, that's a higher percentage field goal. So therefore, you're a better player because if you're an above the rim player with all the skills of a below the rim player. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and
So
I would
if-
like to ask you
so
guys.
they lower the rim in the women's NBA and they can dunk and hit that 90% field goal.
Yeah, because
I
they
think it
know
will
Is that
increase
the same
entertainment
thing?
value.
No, hold on,
Okay, do you think it will increase entertainment value?
I do not know
because
about that.
then
to be
it's not
honest.
basketball
about you?
anymore. Then it's
You
not
don't think so?
basketball. Basketball is like
I know it's the same sport, same rules,
have you,
but
I don't know if you know about
maybe it might be.
Arena Football League. They make it more high offense.
Yeah, yeah. There's all these
alternative-
things.
No
yeah.
one cares. It's like it draws 5% of what the NFL draws. It's not the same game anymore.
Yeah, but for example, golf, women hit from the women tees.
That's right. And what
And
is
the
your
men
point?
hit from the men tees.
I
and
get
yet
that.
it's still considered golf.
No, I'm not. Okay, that's true. But fundamentally, it's the same. And I would say that the women's game don't draw anywhere close to compared to tennis. If you understand, like
Yeah,
tennis draws
parity,
80%. Golf, maybe, I don't know, it could be maybe 25%, 20%.
Again, I'm just gonna say,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
no one here is saying that the women's game, let's say in the NBA, the women is going to draw more than the NBA. Like I
Yeah,
don't,
we're not
I
saying
don't
that.
think people are saying that. That
No,
is-
we're just saying
that is
will it
ri-
increase?
That is ridiculous to
attendance?
say, right? But okay, coming like because we're sort of running out of time, and I just want to make a final thing. I think in general, I think worldwide, I
Yep.
think there is an appetite
Yeah,
for women's sport.
I think there is.
I think there is an appetite for viewership.
yeah.
I don't know if I consider myself one of those,
Mhm.
but I think there is.
Yeah.
And with that appetite, obviously comes more competitions, more viewership,
And it could increase
more
the level of the
more
sport.
sponsorship,
Yeah.
and more and all that sort of things. One good example I can give for that's very recent is the AFLW, where essentially they created a league out of nothing. They created a women's league, and everyone was pretty surprised
And how
at-
well it does.
at the public acceptance of it. And although yes, you're right, the attendance.
It won't be like MCG.
It's
like
not. It's
sold
not.
out.
Yeah, it's not gonna. They're gonna. They're not.
Yet,
Today,
maybe.
they're not
Who
gonna
knows?
sell. They're not gonna sell 50,000, right? But I think it's all about like the fact that it sells out. First of all, they're
It's exceeding
They're
expectations.
7,000 seats. They're 7,000 seat ground or whatever. The fact that it even sells out at all exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
So it's clear that there is some appetite
Yeah.
and there is something to build on. And if it should come to the point where I think right now there's a general preconception that people don't watch women's sports, so maybe we're just not going to bother with it. But I think there is potentially, and I'm not 100%, but potentially some appetite for women's sport, and there should be some investment into it because from a business perspective, it could make you money. And all that eventually will flow through with making the pay for women athletes not equal, and no one is arguing that, but perhaps more equitable.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page.
Okay. I
I
think we're
don't-
all on the same page. Let's end with everyone saying we respect women. Do you all agree?
The only one that doesn't respect women here is Peter.
What the fuck? All right.
Bye.
because
Harry,
yeah,
do you respect women? Just end it as that, man.
I don't accept the premise of that question.
Okay.
Like, I don't know why I need
we'll
to
end it as that.
say
Okay.
that I respect women, right?
So you do. I'm going to cut it so it makes it sound like you do. Anyways.
No.
This has been a great episode. We have done 10 episodes of each, both Zero Credibility and Zero Credibility Sports. We'd like to thank you for listening to us. Thank you. Goodbye. We'll be gone for the holidays. We'll come back stronger, better, and yeah.
Happy holidays from Zero Cred. Shares with your friends and family. Say hi
Yes.
to your mom. Bye.
You don't want to wish them, Harry?
Bye-bye.
Bye.